Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Marty Ross, and this is another Conversations with Marty Ross MD tonight. It's a webinar we're going to talk about Lyme disease. I look forward to seeing the questions you have in store for me tonight, because that usually sets the theme of what the evening is going to be about. For those of you that are new, welcome. And for those of you who are coming back, I see a number of familiar names on my message board. And so I'm glad to see you're here, and I'm glad to see that you keep getting value out of this. For the people that are new, there's two ways you can participate. One is listen to the questions as I read them, and then see how I respond. There's some good learning that can take place from that. The other way is to actually write a question to me, and you can do that over on the right-hand side of the screen. At the bottom, there's a chat box. I'll write your question there. The only thing I ask is that it's shorter, not too long. I mean, this forum doesn't work well for your life history kind of questions, if you will. And so I appreciate if you could keep them on the shorter side. The other thing is don't click the enter key until you're done writing the whole question. If you're trying to click the enter key to create paragraphs, it actually sends whatever you've written to me. And then I have to try to hunt and find the various parts of your question. Tonight, I am creating a recording as usual, and my intention would be that I have that edited and ready to send out to you somewhere between not 5 in the morning, between 9 and 9:30 in the morning, my time. Usually that I keep to that schedule. Often I get it out earlier than that. But just to give you an idea, rarely the way that this video gets saved so that I can edit doesn't work. But that's rare. So I should be able to have that done. This is our last webinar for this month, and next week I will not be doing the webinars. You know, I usually take 1 week out of every 4 weeks off from the webinar, so that's next week. All right, so that means I'll probably see you after the Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you all have a good one in terms of that. Tomorrow morning, when you get the email from me with the links to the recording, there'll also be a way you can sign up for the next series of webinars that will begin in June. All right. So the other thing I ask, if you are finding benefit from these, other people will too. And you can share the wealth, if you will. Go ahead and send the emails that I send out, either announcing that we have webinars or that the recording is ready to anyone you think might get benefit. I'd appreciate if you help me to reach people, and I appreciate if you help me do that. All right. All right. So without any further ado, I think we'll go ahead and get started. During the live version of the webinar, you will be able to see the questions posted to your screen. They don't show up in the recorded version, though, so I'm going to read the questions as I get to them too. And then finally, I will not get through all the questions tonight. So I know that some people get frustrated that I don't get to your questions. It's not that I'm avoiding anyone. It's just there's a lot of questions that you all write, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. Hello, Jim. Let's see. What are some things you have found helpful in countering the immune system dysregulation? It seems to be a big problem in Lyme disease. If someone was overly TH1 dominant, what things have you found to help balance them? And if someone is overly TH2 dominant, what things have you found to help balance them? Also, how often do you see patients contribute to immune system imbalances by taking too many supplements? So I'll kind of give you some general comments. I don't have an answer to your last question. I mean, yes, people can get really carried away with supplements. As to whether it hurts the immune system or not, it's hard to tell. As to whether it becomes a big pocketbook issue, that's probably the bigger issue. So there's two basic things I like to do in all of my treatments in terms of supporting healthy functioning immune system. Number one is getting cytokines under control. All right. So many of you know that from participating in my webinars, you probably have heard the word cytokines before, but for those of you that are new, I'll explain it. So whenever you have an infection in you, or if you have mold toxins in you, your immune system, white blood cells will respond by manufacturing chemicals called cytokines. And cytokines are good and bad. On the good side, they, in the right amount, they can turn the immune system on to attack a germ. And they draw those white blood cells to where the infection is, and they help them work better. That's great, okay? The trouble is, in mold toxicity illness and also in Lyme disease, the immune system often doesn't get the job done and keeps trying harder and harder, and it eventually can overproduce cytokines, okay? So excess cytokines can actually suppress your immune system, all right? Both TH1 and TH2, it can suppress it, okay? So I like working to lower cytokines, and there's a few reasons I like to do that. Number one, I like to lower them to help get better immune balance. Secondly, most of the symptoms that we say somebody has when they have Lyme disease or when they have mold toxin illness are actually symptoms of too many cytokines. So if you can help lower those cytokines, you can start getting some symptom control as well too. So the thing I like to do to lower cytokines, the most effective thing I have found, is to work with curcumin. Curcumin is a component of turmeric. I like using a liposomal variety because it's better absorbed than taking turmeric by itself, if you will. And the product I like using for that is a product manufactured by Thorne called Mariva 500. I have people take one pill 3 times a day on that, okay? All right. Second thing I like to do is to work with, generally is to support the adrenals that actually help support healthy immune function as well too. And that is to use an herb called ashwagandha. Ashwagandha comes to us out of both Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine, where it's been used for thousands of years because it's observed to give people better energy. We know from animal studies the way that it does that is it helps support both thyroid and adrenal function, and having healthy adrenal function actually stimulates the immune system as well too. Okay, all right. Now, Jim raises an issue that for some people with chronic Lyme disease, you can get into an imbalance of 2 parts to the immune, 2 ways that we divide the immune system, something called TH1 and TH2. TH1 tends to be the part of the immune system that fights infection. It's the cells that attack a germ, okay? It's made up of things called macrophages, T cells, natural killer cells. These are the dendritic cells. These are the type of cells that actually attack germs, okay? All right. Then the TH2 is another part of your immune system that is made up of B cells. B cells are what make your antibodies, all right? And also made up of mast cells. Mast cells are your allergy cells, if you will. And it's made up of other cells that are involved in autoimmune illness, okay? Now, typically when, and TH1 cells and TH2 cells are kept in balance by another type of cell called a T regulatory cell, or Tregs as we call them, okay? Kind of think of Tregs as the parent in the room keeping the kids under control. Okay, so if you've got some dysfunctional issues where you've got too much TH1 or too much TH2, one of the ways to go at it is to deal with the Tregs, okay, to manage your T regulators. Okay, now the problem that happens in most people with Lyme is not one of too much TH1. It's actually too much TH2, and too much TH2 releases types of cytokines that suppress TH1, making it harder for you to get over your illness. And part of TH1 overactivity is mast cell excess. Mast cells make histamines, and you get too many histamine reactions. Too much TH2 gives you a lot more autoimmune illness, which means more joint pains, muscle pains. That tends to be more where the problem is, okay? All right. So one way to get your if you've got a lot of excessive TH2, one way to create balance is to work on the Tregs. And what is very useful at doing that is something called low-dose naltrexone. Low-dose naltrexone, especially when people look like they're having an autoimmune component of their illness, can be helpful. Naltrexone is a medicine that's normally manufactured as a 50 milligram pill. When we use it to regulate the immune system, we dose it low. Therefore, it's called low-dose naltrexone. And the dose that we try to shoot for is somewhere between 1.5 and 4.5 milligrams. All right. So what does this do? How does it regulate the immune system? Well, so naltrexone is designed to actually help people with opiate overdose. All right. Our body makes its own natural opiate system. They're called endorphins. And endorphins have a number of roles. Number one, we manufacture them to regulate pain, but they also regulate balance of the immune system.
okay? And if you provide a blockade of the endorphin receptors for a short period of time, what will happen with those endorphin receptors is that they will become super sensitized to any endorphins that remain out there. And in addition, the brain doesn't like this blockade and starts sending out signals to the endorphin producing cells in the bodies to make more endorphins. And so when 5 or 6 hours, 4 hours or so goes by, using low dose naltrexone, as it starts leaving those endorphin receptors, they're super sensitized and they get flooded with all these excess endorphins that the brain said to get produced, okay? And that over a 6-month period of time can often balance out and help start leading to better function of the immune system, especially get at a lot of the achiness and pain that people tend to have too, okay? All right, so I'll try that, but you got to give it about a 6-month trial. The other 2 ways that you can do this are newer ways, and that is to work with peptides. Peptides are manufactured in our body. Peptides are amino acid compounds that have less than 50 amino acids put together. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. If you have more than 50 amino acids, we call that a protein. If you have under 50 amino acids, we call that a peptide. There's a number of peptides made in our bodies. The ones that are most easily accessible are the ones that are available in the oral form as oral supplements. And one of those is something called BPC-157. BPC-157, in addition to helping to create some balance between TH1 and TH2, also can fix damaged tissues like joints and muscles and tendons and even nerves, okay? And generally, it's considered to be the foundational peptide you would use. And I usually have people start at about 1 twice a day. I might even go up to 1 pill or 2 pills 3 times. 3 pills 2 times a day over time. But usually, if 1 twice a day isn't helping and they're still having a lot of immune imbalance, I might add something called TB4 Frag, which is a peptide that's manufactured by the thymus gland. Our thymus gland is an organ that sits here in the chest. And thymus gland also can create better balance in the immune system as well, too. Okay, all right. And so that's another way to go about doing it, all right? So I've said a number of things here tonight. So first of all, your foundation to immune regulation, get your cytokines under control, all right, and ashwagandha. And then if that by itself is not helping you to do better, along with your antibiotics by around 6 months or so, you might consider adding in low-dose naltrexone, and you might consider even doing BPC-157, okay? All right. All right, let me show you some articles that you can take a look at here that will give you some insights on this. So you can look at more of this later here. All right, so take a look at my Lyme disease information site here, Treat Lyme by Marty Ross MD. And take a look at, in terms of the article that I've written on peptides, and I walk you through the various oral peptides that are available and how do you start them, what doses, etc. Take a look at this article here called Repair and Restore with Peptides. All right. Right. And then in terms of looking up information on naltrexone, you'll find it in my immune system section. And take a look at this article here called LDN for Lyme. Okay. All right. So that's a lot. That's a mouthful. A lot of things I just said there. So again, it's recorded. You'll be able to follow it again tomorrow. But anyhow, Jim, I hope that gives you some information to work with there. Okay. All right. Thanks for that question. Hello, Bonnie. Let's see. I've been diagnosed with the 3 Bs since 2017. And I think by the 3 Bs, you mean Borrelia, which is Lyme, Bartonella, and Babesia. I suspect that's what you mean. Been treated with Mepron, Malarone, Coartem, Artemisinin, Cryptolepis, Bactrim, Biaxin, Plaquenil, Azithromycin, and Doxy. Currently in my 3rd relapse of Babesia. High platelets, day and night sweats, fatigue, and severe brain fog, and no short-term memory. I have common variable immune disorder and receive monthly IVIG. Once I go off meds, I relapse. What to do? Boy, Bonnie, I would need to know a lot more to give you a really the best answer. This is one time I would need to visit with you because I need to know more about how. I know you've used a lot of good drugs. I don't know how you use them in combination as to whether you got your best treatment out of it or not. Okay. The one thing you might consider doing with this current round of treatment, regardless of what you're using, is to look at adding in an enzyme called lumbrokinase. Lumbrokinase is a group of enzymes that come from the skin of earthworms. It's a crazy illness that we have. Yes, we have to use earthworm therapy here. But what lumbrokinase does is it's a very effective enzyme at breaking up the blood clotting protein in our blood called fibrin. All right. And there's newer evidence showing that when Babesia is difficult to get over, one of the reasons may be that Babesia can intermingle with these fibrin protein strands in our blood and form a fibrin Babesia nest, okay? And if you happen to have Bartonella, the Bartonella may get trapped in there as well too, all right? And so these nests, this fibrin kind of blocks out the effective treatment from your antimicrobials, all right? So you could add in lumbrokinase, and it comes either as a 16 milligram pill if you get the Allergy Research product, or you can get it as a product made by Canada RNA called Boluke, and that's a 20 milligram pill. They're both effective. The Allergy Research is less expensive. And that tends to be the one I work with. But you would take one pill a day to begin with. After the herx passes from that, then you would want to go up to one pill twice a day. The thing about lumbrokinase, though, is you have to be careful because you can get some pretty significant herx reactions. Second thing is you have to take it on an empty stomach. You cannot take it with medicines, herbs, supplements, or food in your stomach at the same time. Because if you do, it'll try to digest them. It won't be available to deal with your fibrin nest, okay? The way that, what I mean by an empty stomach is I advise people to stop everything at 1 hour before you take lumbrokinase, and then you can begin things again 1 hour after. Now, you can have it with water, can't have it with food, can't have it with your supplements, and can't have it with your prescription medicines at the same time. So beginning 1 hour before, through 1 hour after. Okay. So if you haven't tried that before, regardless of what combination of whatever they're using to try to get your germs under control, I would consider adding in lumbrokinase in case it's these Babesia nests that are part of the problem. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Bonnie. Hello, Kate. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I asked you last week about low-dose naltrexone, and I have another question. So I used LDN, low-dose naltrexone, to calm my overstimulated immune system down after healing from Lyme, and then I decided to continue being on it due to pre-existing autoimmunity. It seems like every dose I've tried gives me muscle tension at the back of my head, but I don't know why this is. First question, why do you think this would happen? 2, do you think it is smarter to continue decreasing the dose, or do you think doing alternate day dosing is better? I've heard sometimes the longer you're on it, the longer it takes for the receptors to clear. 3, is low-dose naltrexone at smaller dosages, 0.5 milligrams, for instance, too stimulating to the immune system? I know the Norwegian LDN protocol says that higher doses are more suppressive and lower doses are more stimulating, obviously not ideal. 4, do you have any long-term alternatives to low-dose naltrexone? Thank you so much. All right. So one thing I think that I had suggested to you last time, Kate, if I remember your question correctly, is that if you are healthy and you're wondering how long you should continue the LDN and you've been on it for a year or two or longer, try coming off of it and see how you're going to tolerate. You may not need it anymore, okay? But there also is no problem with just staying permanently on it. In terms of the symptom of head symptom, neck symptoms that you get, I'm not sure why that's happening. I have a rule in medicine that applies to anything you take, which is anything can happen to anyone with anything. And the reason I have that rule is I've seen some crazy side effects that you would not consider to be typical side effects of things that I use in my patients with Lyme. And so, if you start something and something goes haywire, it's probably the supplement or the prescription you did, even if it's not listed as a common side effect, okay? So anything can happen to anyone with anything. That's my rule in medicine, okay? So if things go haywire, I look at the last things I added and try to figure out, is it a herx or is it a side effect? All right. All right. Number 2, let's see. Do you think it is similar to continuing dose, or do you think so? In terms of decreasing, I tend to like to be have people take it daily, and you can rather than doing the every other day. That's just my own preference. Okay. 3, is low dose naltrexone in smaller doses to stimulate the immune system? So I don't know about that. I haven't seen anything to suggest that. I know, for instance, that there are some people I can only get it up to 0.5 milligrams, and it seems to actually balance the immune system and not overstimulate it. So, and I'm not sure where the Norwegians are coming up with this, because I don't think there's science that would support that. Okay, I haven't seen science that would support that. And I've looked at the science before, so I'm not sure where they're coming up with that. And number 4, do you have long-term alternatives to low-dose naltrexone? So the one thing you could try that I mentioned earlier tonight as an alternative, especially if you have tissue injury, would be to do the BPC 157. And that would be at, because it creates balance between TH1 and TH2. It also repairs tissues, and that's 1 pill twice a day. If you're not having any symptoms of tissue injury anymore, your nerves are working well, and you don't have muscle pain, joint pain, then you might consider working with the peptide called TB4 Frag. So those would be some thoughts on that. Okay. All right. Very good. Good luck to you, Kate. Oh, in terms of the TB4 Frag, let me just show you that real quick. I'll make a comment about that too when I get over here. Let's see. Let's do a quick screen share. All right, so the company that makes these peptides that are available orally is called Integrative Peptides, Integrative Peptides. So you can look here by go to my manufacturer, look up Integrative Peptides right there. Okay. All right. Now, Integrative Peptides has 2 products that have the TB4 Frag in it. Okay. One is called TB4 Frag, and the other one is TB4 Frag Max. All right. The TB4 Frag is not permanently, is long-term out of stock, and they have no idea when this stuff is coming back, okay? The alternative that is available right now is this TB4 Frag Max, and what this has in it, it has the TB4 Frag, but at twice the dose compared to what TB4 Frag and TB4 Frag product did, okay? So this product here on the left, the TB4 Frag product, is 150 micrograms, I believe, of the TB4 Frag, and the TB4 Frag Max has 300 micrograms in it, okay? This also has a thymus gland extract in it, and may do a better job overall of helping your immune system, okay? All right. In terms of how you dose this, this is going to be, I would dose this at 1 capsule twice a day. But if you ever have questions, just look at my tab right here on any of these products, okay? And here I talk about what the potential benefit of the TB4 Frag Max may be, okay? All right. So that's my supplement store, Marty Ross MD Supplements. If you're ever wondering what products I use with my patients, what have I found effective, you can go through that store and see what we have, okay? Anyone can order from there. It is not just exclusive for my patients. Anyone can order from there. And to help keep your costs down, I offer free shipping on orders over $50, and I pick up any sales tax that might be due. I get questions sometimes why I don't sell my products lower than I do. And that is because every manufacturer has certain requirements when you sell online of a price you can't sell below. Okay. And they enforce them. They've come after me before when I've gone lower. So I do sell at the lowest prices they allow. But to help you with make these more affordable, because I realize these things are expensive, is I do pick up shipping and I do pay any of the sales tax. Okay. All right. So there you go. Thanks, Kate. Good luck to you. Hello, Dominic. Hello, Dr. Ross. Thank you for these amazing webinars. You're welcome. Let's see. My new mold doctor is putting me on the following Welchol binder, 625 milligrams, 1 tablet 2 times a day, cromolyn 2 times a day for body inflammation, and 3,000 milligrams a day of fish oil 1 time a day. Have you ever used these? Any thoughts? I've never heard of these medications before, and I have never used fish oil. Thank you. All right. So the Welchol is a binder that is very similar to a prescription powder called cholestyramine. Okay. And yes, I have used that. And yes, this sounds like a reasonable starting dose. Okay. Cromolyn is a prescription medicine that is used to stabilize a type of cell in our bodies, which are called mast cells. And you can think of mast cells as being the allergy cell. However, they can also get turned on by things more than allergies. All right. So historically, we always thought that mast cells were only turned on if a pollen or cat dander or dog dander, whatever it is you're allergic to, landed on a mast cell. We thought they would turn on and release histamines only in those situations. Research over the last 10 years or longer now is telling us that actually mold toxins can stimulate and ramp up your mast cells, so they make a lot of histamines and more easily release them. Also, chronic infections like Lyme and also yeast and Babesia, Bartonella can stimulate your mast cells as well too. Cromolyn is made to stabilize those mast cells so they don't manufacture and release the histamines as easily. I'm not sure if it decreases their ability to make cytokines, because these mast cells also make a lot of cytokines too. All right. So for some reason, your physician must be thinking you may have some mast cell activation. All right. Cromolyn is useful for mast cell activation in the gut because it affects the mast cells that line your intestinal tract. Keep in mind that 60 to 70% of your body's immune cells line the intestinal tract. All right. And they release their substances into the bloodstream then. Signs that make me think of somebody having mast cell activation would be somebody who has a lot of allergies, has a lot of food reactivity, people that get hives, people that have bad eczema. Those are things that make me wonder about mast cell activation. The testing that we have for it is not great, but you can do histamine levels. You can do prostaglandin levels to look at this. But often we're just using it as a gut reaction. Okay, now, too many histamines in the gut, if you have mast cell activation in the gut, can give you a lot of bloating and cramping as well too. All right. So I'm not sure why they decided to do a mast cell activation, but that's what it's used for. Okay. And that's a reasonable dose. In terms of the fish oil, that can be anti-inflammatory, and that's a reasonable dose to use on that too. All right. Without knowing more about your specific symptoms, I can't tell you whether this is the best regimen for you, but I can say, yeah, this stuff can make sense. Okay. All right. I'm going to show you some more information about mast cell activation, everyone, so you can read about this later. Let me do a quick screen share again here. Oops, looks like I didn't do that right. Oh, here we are. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that telescoping way that I did that. I didn't launch that correct. All right. So take a look over at my Treat Lyme by Marty Ross MD site and look at the, in terms of mast cell activation, look in my immune system section. And this is my mast cell activation syndrome and Lyme article right here. Okay. There are other things you can do to stabilize your mast cells too. And in fact, one of my favorite herbs to use to stabilize mast cells is something called quercetin that will stabilize mast cells throughout the whole body versus the cromolyn you're taking is just stabilizing them in the intestinal tract. If you use quercetin to stabilize mast cells, I usually recommend that people take a total of 500 milligrams 3 times a day. The product I like for that is a product manufactured by Thorne called Quercetin Phytosome. Okay? All right. Good luck to you, Dominic. Hello, Ann. Let's see. Can anaplasma ehrlichia infections that were not initially treated during acute infection be treated 4 years later with a couple months of doxy, or is it too late once the initial infection is not treated? Does it become chronic and persistent like Borrelia? What are the distinct symptoms of ehrlichia anaplasma? On a different note, do you recommend the gut health test kits from Viome? All right. So, in terms of anaplasma and ehrlichia, my impression and actually my experience working with them is that generally, whenever you treat them, whether it's 4 years down the road, 10 years down the road, or initially, doxycycline works well. And usually within a month, 2 weeks to a month, you've got them under control. When I'm going to think about it in particular is if I've got somebody with acute tick bite that has a high temperature and muscle aches, think of anaplasma and ehrlichia being part of that. If I've got somebody that has ongoing myalgia and muscle aches, then they probably don't continue to have the high temperature though, but chronically has a lot of myalgia and muscle aches, I'm going to wonder if anaplasma and ehrlichia are there. And usually as part of their Lyme treatment, I might initially put them on doxycycline, which targets the Lyme infection, the Borrelia Lyme infection, but also just 2 weeks to a month will take care of anaplasma and ehrlichia. Now, in somebody that cannot tolerate doxycycline, another alternative is rifampin. Herbally, I have not seen good information or am I aware of an effective herb that works on those, okay? That doesn't mean there aren't herbs that do it. I'm just not aware. I usually think that you're better off going with prescriptions on those, okay? All right. And then Viome is a company that is doing stool testing. And I believe that they're actually looking at the genetic materials in your stool to figure out whether what the makeup of your gut is in terms of parasites, viruses, and bacteria. I think it can give a snapshot that might be useful. It does not pick up everything from the last time I looked at it, unless they've done some improvements. I still think we're early in trying to figure out how do we work with all this gut microbiome information. The one thing I will do with a Viome or a GI map or a Great Plains GIFX or a Great Plains comprehensive digestive stool analysis is if on the testing I see that there is something that is very imbalanced, I will try to fix it, okay? But I recognize that these tests are still in their infancy in terms of their accuracy and in terms of giving us something that we can use to actually make a difference. I think this is still a very new field, actually, unfortunately. All right. Thanks for that question. Hello, Victoria. Let's see. Dear Dr. Ross, thank you very much for sharing with us your knowledge and experience. You're welcome. Let's see. If you would treat Bartonella or Borrelia and Bartonella with cat's claw and Otoba and Houtinia and Sida acuta and cinnamon clove oregano, what would you recommend to treat possible Babesia? Cryptolepis? The answer is yeah. I would use Cryptolepis. Your other main herbal alternative would be artemisinin, but I find Cryptolepis to work a lot better, to be honest with you. Okay. Now you can use Cryptolepis and artemisinin together, but if you're looking for a single thing, and that's usually what I'll use, is I'll try the Cryptolepis by itself. How would you recommend to start the whole treatment? All remedies at once, 1 drop of each 2 times a day. All right. So usually if I'm going to use a combination of the Otoba, so everyone, the cat's claw and Otoba is going to target Lyme. The Houtinia and Sida acuta is going to target Bartonella. and the cryptolepis would be targeting Babesia, but there's newer research that came out last year from Johns Hopkins that would suggest it can treat Lyme, and it can treat Bartonella, and it can even pick up persister forms of Lyme and Bartonella. Okay. Now, I haven't talked about persisters yet tonight, but we're starting to wonder if one of the reasons that people with Lyme may not get better and Bartonella may have a hard time getting better is that some of their germs may move into hibernation. We call those persisters. We know we can create those persisters in the lab. We still have no solid scientific evidence that persisters happen in living people, but most of us are starting to tailor our treatments based on these lab and mice experiments to try to do some work on persisters in case they are a problem, okay? And so the research out of Hopkins published last year showed that crypto is useful for persister forms of Bartonella and Lyme. It can even go after the growing forms of Bartonella and Lyme, the Lyme being Borrelia as well too, okay? Generally, the way I would start is I would have a patient take the, start out with the Borrelia and Bartonella aspects first, which would be your Psittacuta, Houttenia, Otoba, and cat's claw. And I would begin all of those taken simultaneously at the same time as 5 drops 2 times a day, and have a person increase the daily dose by 1 drop per dose until you reach 30 drops twice a day. All right. So that's going to take you about 25 days to get there. Okay. Now, if as you're increasing, a person were to have Herxheimer reactions, then I'd stop increasing until that passes. Still stay on it. Don't stop taking it. So if you get your Herx at 15 drops twice a day of everything, keep taking it as 15 drops twice a day. Okay. Once a person then is stable on that, then I might come back at the next visit in a month or maybe 2 months and add in cryptolepis. And cryptolepis, I don't ramp up. I just go right to the top dose. I do it as 5 milliliters, which is a teaspoonful, 3 times a day. Okay. All right. Now let's see. Number 3, have you ever combined methylene blue with herbal treatments? Yeah, I have no problem adding it in. So methylene blue, everyone, is a medicine that has been repurposed to help with Lyme and Bartonella. Methylene blue is a substance that mainly was made or has been manufactured to treat a condition called methemoglobinemia. And in methemoglobinemia, basically your hemoglobin, which is a protein found in the middle of your red blood cells, doesn't let go of oxygen. It's supposed to let go of oxygen. It's supposed to carry oxygen out into your tissues and then let it go to release that oxygen into your tissues. But with some people, when it gets really bad, their hemoglobin won't let go of the oxygen. Methylene blue, given in an IV form, which is how it's manufactured, will cause the hemoglobin to let go of the oxygen. So that's what it tends to be used for, is people that are more in crises where their condition has gotten really bad. But we do have some evidence, lab experiments show that it is useful against Bartonella and Lyme persisters. There are some companies, there's 3 compounding pharmacies here in the States that are manufacturing it into an oral form. Those 3 are Hopkinton Pharmacy out in Massachusetts. There's a pharmacy in Cedar Park, Texas. I'm blanking on the name of it. And then there's Infuserve down in St. Petersburg, Florida, that is also doing it as well too. Okay, I have more experience working with the Hopkinton product, and that tends to be the one that I wind up working with. Okay, all right. Thanks for that question. I hope I figure out the name of the compounding pharmacy in Cedar Park, Texas. Cedar Park is right outside of Austin. I'm just blanking on it right now. All right. The reason more pharmacies don't handle that, the methylene blue, is it is extremely messy stuff to work with, basically. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm going over, there's 2 ways your questions show up to me. There's a chat column, and then there's also a Q&A column. I've been working off of my chat feed. I'm going to go over to my Q&A feed now. Now, some of you write your questions in 2 places, and it looks like that's my first question here, so I'm going to get rid of this one. All right, let me see. this is one we haven't answered yet on the other side. So this is a question from Tim. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. How are you doing today? I'm well, thank you. I have a question about lumbrokinase. Earthworms in general have many internal parasites. With lumbrokinase being extracted from earthworms, is it possible the lumbrokinase to be contaminated with these parasites and for them to end up in the actual product? I take the doctor's best brand. Thank you so much. So I can only speak to the quality of the two manufacturers I use. Okay, so I use Allergy Research, and I use also a product made called Boluke by Candida RNA. Technically, lumbrokinase is an enzyme that comes from the skin of earthworms. All right, so it all depends on how the manufacturer is developing this stuff, but if they are using the skin, you should not be getting parasites, because parasites would be more in the internal part of the earthworm. And they should be taking steps to sterilize to make sure that there aren't any parasites that get through. I have not found a problem with the two manufacturers I use. I have no idea about the doctor's best brand that you're using. I can't speak to the quality of it. Okay. All right. Thanks, Tim. Good luck to you. Let's see. Hello, Lynn. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I've heard one needs to pause curcumin while taking Paxlovid. Do you know how long you need to be off curcumin before starting Paxlovid? I also take Japanese knotweed, Chinese skullcap, berberine, Andrographis, Hutania, Psittacuta, glutathione, cinnamon, clove, oregano, Capri Plus, BPC 157, ATP 360, and probiotics. Do I need to pause any of these or regular vitamins as well? The answer is no, and I don't agree that you need to be off of curcumin to do the Paxlovid. I'm not sure why somebody is saying that. Okay, all right. Good luck to you, Lynn. Hello, James. Hi, Dr. Ross. Thank you for everything you do. You're welcome. I have been in remission of Lyme and Bartonella for about 9 months, but every time I do exercise to strengthen the body, I feel worse the next day with chronic fatigue. My naturopathic doctor tried me on low-dose Naltrexone, and I saw immediate results, no brain fog, and more energy. I notice if I eat anything sugary, my body crashes and feel tired and need to nap. I did a comprehensive stool test, and good bacteria were 3+ counts, but my IgA was low, and pancreatic elastase was 40. I haven't been able to form any solid stools in 3 years since antibiotic treatment for Lyme and Bart. Any ideas what I should do to investigate next to help my gut and have more exercise strength training? Okay, a couple of thoughts for you to consider. Well, actually 3 thoughts. Number one, so although you did a comprehensive stool study, the one thing that they are just not that accurate at finding is whether you have a relative excess of yeast in your intestines. And notice the word I said, relative, okay? So they report out in absolute numbers, and they have an arbitrary number that they pick to say if you have this many yeast colonies that you have high yeast, okay? But that's arbitrary, because really every one of us has a certain amount of yeast we might tolerate in us. But when we cross a certain threshold for us, then we have too many yeast, okay? The reason I'm wondering about too many yeast in you is that you feel so poorly after you have sugar. That's a common symptom you'll see with yeast overgrowth, okay? Other symptoms to think about that could suggest yeast overgrowth. And you could have yeast overgrowth even if you did things to prevent yeast during your treatment for Lyme, you can still get too many yeast. And in fact, because you did antibiotics, years down the road, you'll have disturbances in the good makeup of bacteria in your intestines, and you could still get yeast down the road, all right? And in my practice, about 80% of the time that I've gotten somebody well and they get a decline, even years down the road, about 80% of the time it's yeast. I'll treat that and they'll get back on their way again. Okay. Yeast can be pretty profound. We don't have an accurate test for too many yeast in the intestines. So you have to go by a clinical suspicion. All right. So symptoms that make me wonder about too many yeast are feeling worse when you have something sugary, like crashing afterwards. Number two, another thing that makes me think about it is if you have skin changes like pimples, acne, eczematous rashes, psoriasis, that's worse. Any skin problems that are worse, dandruff, that's worse, makes me think of too many yeast in the intestines too. The relationship is too many yeast in the intestines manufacture toxins that get absorbed into the bloodstream and then will interact with your skin, leading to these various skin problems. Okay. All right. The other things that make me think of too many yeast are gassiness and bloating. Sometimes difficulty with swallowing. You can, if you get yeast in your food pipe, it actually feels like things get stuck there. Okay. All right. So those would be some things. So if based on what you just said, if I had a patient with a similar situation like this, I might try to treat yeast either herbally for a couple months, or I might try to do it prescriptively for a month. Prescriptively for a month, I like using a combination of nystatin, 500,000 international units, 2 pills twice a day. And I like to combine that usually with diflucan, 200 milligrams, 1 pill a day for 30 days. Okay. The reason I use nystatin and diflucan together, diflucan is your bazooka. Nystatin I include because yeast can learn resistance to diflucan. They tend not to as easily when you use nystatin. Okay. All right. Herbally, I like working with a product that has caprylic acid in it, some oregano and garlic in it. That's a product made by Karuna. That's Karuna, and that's called Capri Plus. That's CAPRIPLUS, all is one word. And that is 2 pills twice a day, but it'll take about 2 months. I give that an 80 to 85% chance of the work. I give about a 95% chance that nystatin diflucan will have things cleared up. Okay. All right. Now, the way that pertains, too many yeast could also be affecting your exercise ability, is if you have too many yeast in you, you're also overproducing cytokines, and that's going to lead just to general inflammation in the body, which may get flared up with more exercise that you do. Okay. All right. Second thing to think of is when you've had chronic infection in you, like Lyme, and it was in you, one of the things your immune system was doing to get rid of it was manufacturing oxidizing agents like hydrogen peroxide, for instance. Okay. And oxidizing agents can lead to injury to your cell energy factories called mitochondria. So when I see a situation where somebody is doing relatively well, but then they exercise and they do poorly, that often can mean that the mitochondria are injured and they don't have the ability to make enough energy reserve for the cells. Okay. So your cell energy factories are called mitochondria. There's around 300 to 400 mitochondria per cell. Inside mitochondria, sugar and fat are burned through a bunch of chemical reactions to create cell fuel, which is called ATP. If the covering of the mitochondria gets injured from these oxidizing agents, it hinders its ability to bring fuel to the inside of the mitochondria, which is sugar and fat. Okay. It also will impair its ability to release that healthy covering is needed to give electrons into a number of the chemical reactions that generate energy, and that will be impaired as well too. So a thing you may want to consider also is repair your mitochondria. And mitochondrial repair involves a couple things. Number one, you have to fix the covering. And a product I like to use that's called doing phospholipid repair. Phospholipids are the fats that make up the covering. The product I like for that is something called ATP 360 by Research Nutritionals. That's 3 pills 1 time a day. Name Alert, they have another product called ATP Fuel, which is their older product. The ATP 360 works better, and it replaced the ATP Fuel. Okay. All right. The other thing I would do is fix your mitochondria from the inside, and that's working with glutathione. Every one of our cells manufactures glutathione to fix energy or damage in a cell. But when things are damaged, including mitochondria, they can't replace it, basically. And so you need to put more in you. You need to fill up your glutathione gas tank, basically. The product I like for that is a liposomal product, because liposomal means it's better absorbed or it leads to better absorption, I should say. And so the product I like for that is a product by Research Nutritionals called Trifortify. People take a teaspoonful 1 time a day. Okay. All right. Then finally, that's probably what I would focus on first, is look at yeast, even with a normal GI profile that you had. The other thing that makes me think you have imbalance is that pancreatic elastase is low. That's an enzyme made by the pancreas. Usually if it's under 200, we consider that low. The thing that would be causing it to be low is it's not getting the proper signals from healthy intestinal lining to tell it to make the elastase. And one of the causes of that will be imbalance of good bacteria and yeast in your intestines. And a big problem is yeast overgrowth leading to that as well too. Okay. All right. So work on yeast, fix your mitochondria. Those would be 2 things I use. If you presented to me and you were my patient, that's what I would suggest doing. I'm not your doctor though. You should talk this over with your doctor to see if they agree with that. Okay. All right. Third thing to consider. So you get yeast cleared out, do a couple months of trying to fix mitochondria and you're still having trouble. You might want to start looking at doing some tissue repair then. And that I would probably add in to what I just told you to do, add to the ATP 360 and add to the glutathione would be that BPC 157 I discussed earlier tonight as a peptide. It as a peptide can help mitochondria function, but it also repairs injured tissues as well too. And that's 1 pill twice a day. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, James. Thanks for the question. Hello, Melissa. Let's see. I have Lyme disease and co-infections and have some skin problems. It's not acne, but bumps that won't go away and are very deep and don't heal. Have been to a dermatologist and they don't know what it is. The bumps aren't itchy. Have you seen this? So the one comment I would make is kind of an offshoot of what I said earlier tonight, and that is, if you have too many yeast in the intestines, you will get abnormal skin things coming up. Inflammation that's not necessarily explained, bumps, skin rashes, etc. Okay, so you might want to consider if you have too many yeast, and if you do, you might want to look at trying to resolve that and see what happens to your skin. I'm going to show you an article that explains how you can figure that out. Okay, let me just do a quick screen share here. Oops, I set that up wrong again. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So I have a section in my online Lyme guide, which is a yeast section. All right. Click on that. And then take a look at this article called "A Silent Problem Is It Yeast?" That will help you read about and figure out if you might have yeast. And if you think you do, then take a look at this article here called "Kills Yeast, a Brief Guide," where I explain the various options that you have to get rid of it too. Okay? All right. Good luck to you. All right, let's see. Hello. I'm not sure how you say your name. Is that Tais? T-A-I-S. I'm sorry. I apologize if I bungled that up, but I haven't seen that name before. So welcome here. Let's see. Dr. Ross, you're amazing. Oh, well, thank you for that. 2 questions. I have chronic Lyme and a lot of very difficult neurological symptoms. I have been using Cemento and Banderol for chronic Lyme for 4 months. I feel like it's helping, but very slowly. Would switching from herbal antibiotics to prescription antibiotics help go faster? Is it an option? 2, I'm using only Cemento and Banderol. Is it enough? Should I introduce other herbs? When is time to introduce other herbs? Which are? Thank you. All right. So Taze, I'd make a comment to you. So one thing to consider when you have severe neurologic problems is the possibility of a co-infection with Bartonella. All right. So that's what we tend to see is when people have either severe cognition, so severe cognition issues, thinking issues that are much worse than the relative decline in their energy, think Bartonella, If you have a lot of neuropsych issues, neurologic and psych issues, think Bartonella. All right, so Bartonella is a bacteria that can be transmitted with tick bites and can be transmitted by the tick that gave you Lyme. All right. If we look at East Coast studies here in the United States, the studies out there tell us that of ticks that carry Lyme, about 75% will carry one co-infection, one other infection, and about 50% will carry two. All right. So out of the East Coast here in the United States, you have a 50% chance of having both Bartonella and Babesia in addition to having your Lyme. All right. All right. So I just want to put that in context. Okay. All right. So symptoms that can indicate possible Bartonella are severe neurologic syndromes, psychiatric problems like bad depression, bad anxiety, having feelings of internal vibrating and buzzing, pain on the soles of the feet. That tends to get better as you walk on your feet in the morning. Another thing that can look like Bartonella is having air hunger, which is the feeling you can't get enough air when you take from time to time, even without activity. All right. Now, Babesia can give air hunger sometimes too, but Bartonella can too as well. Okay. So those are some things to think about. All right. So, and you probably ought to talk to a doctor that understands Lyme so they can help you figure out whether this is Bartonella or not. That's part of it. Okay. But if you can't find somebody to help you, I would consider adding some coverage in. And the way to do that herbally would be to, in addition to doing the cementobanderol, would be to consider adding in Sida acuta and Houttenia. Those are two herbs that you can use to treat for Bartonella. Okay. If you're not getting better, I think you have two choices at this point. One is add the herbs to cover Bartonella. Or the other option is if the herbs aren't working quickly enough, sometimes switching over to prescription antibiotics will. There's a number of antibiotics you can use that will cover for both Lyme and Bartonella at the same time. So the combination of clarithromycin coupled with rifampin is a Lyme and a Bartonella treatment. More recently, I've been doing, so that's one option. Another option would be doxycycline and diflucan. Diflucan is the yeast medicine, but diflucan also can treat the cyst form of Lyme, and diflucan probably has benefit against Bartonella as well too. All right, that's another way to do it. Okay, all right. Good luck to you. I hope that gives you some information to look at. I'm going to do a quick screen share here. I'm going to show you a couple things. All right, so in terms of how can you treat Bartonella, take a look at my article called Kills Bartonella Brief Guide. And if you read through here, you're going to see that there are a number of options I give. In terms of the herbal options, take a look at my tier 2 treatment approach, okay? All right. So just mention that to you. The other thing you might want to consider is also adding in some liposomal cinnamon clove oregano. That helps with growing Lyme and growing Bartonella. Also does a good job picking up persister Bartonella as well too. Okay. All right. All right. So that's one thing to take a look at. And then in terms of trying to figure out if you have Bartonella, take a look at my section called How to Diagnose, and take a look at this article here on how do you diagnose Bartonella. Okay. All right. Good luck to you. Hello, Joyce. Hold on here just a minute. Well, Joyce, I'm not sure if you're listening in on this or not. What I will say, everyone, Joyce says, hi, Dr. Ross. I'm not sure if this is just me, but I cannot see you or hear you. However, I can see the question. The exact same thing happened last week. Is this a webinar jam problem? I've not had any connection problems on my end except for your webinar. Hope this helps others if it is on your end. Thank you, Joyce. Joyce, I haven't heard of anyone else having this problem. So the reason I'm reading this out loud, you may not even hear this. I'm trying to see if other people would tell me if they're having that problem too. All right. All right. Let's see if I'm getting. Yeah, some people are responding that they can hear and see me. Okay. I'm not sure what's happening over there. Hello, Janella. Let's see. What do you think about ketamine? Is it something that needs to be administered often forever? So ketamine is an anesthetic that can be useful in treatment-resistant psychiatric conditions like depression. Okay. And people have been using it for that, for some benefit. It also can be useful for pain. It basically, if you use it long enough to get well from depression, you may not need to keep using it on an ongoing basis at a point. But that's all very individualized. Okay. Can it be helpful? Yeah. Is it for everyone? No. Will it work on everyone? No. But it can be helpful. All right. Good luck to you, Janelle. So another question from Janella. What do you think about SNRIs to help with depressed mood from chronic Lyme? So SNRIs and SSRIs and any kind of antidepressant medicine can be helpful. The one thing that's nice about SNRIs like Cymbalta is we tend to get good muscle pain control as well too. So for the myalgia, Cymbalta can sometimes help with that. The other thing that's nice with a Cymbalta, for instance, which is an SNRI, is it tends to be on the stimulating side, so it can help give energy to a person as well too. Okay. All right. Thanks for that question. And then Janella, you've had some quick questions. I'm going to do one more of yours. Do you have a protocol for daily supplements after healing from Lyme to prevent relapse? Generally, when somebody is over and they've been treated once and they get into remission, I generally don't have people do anything to prevent relapse right away. I wait and see if they're going to need help. Now, if somebody does eventually relapse, then I might take stronger steps to prevent that relapse in the future. Okay. So the next time I treat them, I'm going to do things to go after persisters. And there's a variety of things you can do about that so that we get rid of what may be coming back. Okay. Number two, after I'm done treating, I might be inclined to leave them on low doses of like a Natova or a cat's claw at daily dosing, like 15 drops twice a day to help prevent the relapse from happening again. Okay. All right. Good luck to you. So everyone, I mentioned persisters here with that question. And again, in the world of Lyme right now, the idea that maybe reason people will get better is that they have hibernating forms of the germs that stay in them is a current idea that's in vogue. I think we're still trying to decide ultimately, is this the thing that's going to make the big difference for people or not? But some of the lab science is suggesting it, and most of us are trying to do some things for persisters, okay? So if you're wondering what to do about persisters, take a look at my latest section here. Thought I put it in here. I recently refreshed my persister article, and it looks like I forgot to put it there. What you can do, just take a look. I'll type in persisters. All right, so this article called How to Treat Persister Lyme in Bartonella is where I explain about persisters and I give you a variety of options, including herbal options, to go after those persisters too. Okay. All right. All right. Hello, Vanya. What is the best way to treat Bartonella? Antibiotics, herbs, or both, and which ones? So, Vanya, the herbal options, which would be Sida acuta, Houttenia, and the liposomal cinnamon clove oregano that I showed you earlier tonight in that Bartonella article that I just showed you, works effectively about 70 to 75% of the time. And if it is working, you should start to see improvements in your Bartonella symptoms by about 2 months of doing it, okay? By comparison, the various prescription options that you can do that I showed in that article, that are in that article I showed you earlier, any two of those together, along with liposomal cinnamon clove oregano, will work effectively about 80 to 85% of the time. And if those two are not helping you, then you switch over to another two. Okay. All right. And all of those should be coupled with the liposomal cinnamon clove oregano to go after the possibility that persisters are holding you back. Okay. All right. Good luck to you. Hello, Dave. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I'm taking cryptolepis and Sida acuta right now to treat Babesia and Bartonella. I believe you recommended doses of cryptolepis is 1 teaspoon 3 times per day, and the recommended dose of Sida acuta is half teaspoon 3 times a day. Should I take the maximum dose that you recommend of each, or should I reduce the dose of each since I'm taking both? Taking the max dose of each would equal 4.5 teaspoons of tinctures daily, which seems to be quite a bit. Thanks a lot for all the amazing info that you provide. Yeah, I know it seems like a lot. I got that. But those are the doses I find effective. And yeah, you could take, I would not reduce one because you're doing the other. I would take the full amount. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Dave. Hello, Rich. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I have noticed that some companies that produce tinctures of cryptolepis and Sida acuta add apple cider vinegar to the tincture. I believe that Buhner also recommends this. Have you heard that? Montana Pharmacy does not appear to have apple cider vinegar in their cryptolepis and Sida acuta tinctures. Do you think that the apple cider vinegar version of the tincture would be better, or does it not matter? Thanks for doing another incredible webinar. Thank you, Rich. I haven't observed that it matters. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. I wasn't aware that Buhner was recommending that, but I've been using the apple cider vinegar free cryptolepis for some time now, and not finding any difficulty with that, or find it to be effective still. So I'm not clear about that. Okay. All right. Thanks, Rich. All right, actually, I'll show this. There's, post a message from Victoria. She responded to the question earlier by the one person who said they couldn't see or be heard. I'm going to post this. All right, so Victoria says, I did not hear you at the very beginning, and I clicked red reconnect button. And it appears that worked. Okay, so I'm not sure if that will help the other person that was having the difficulty. All right. Thanks for the comment, Victoria. All right, let's see here. Hello, Alexander. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I have Lyme, Bartonella, Babesia, and mold toxicity. Which one causes abdominal stomach pain with digestive issues? What would you recommend to help with the pain? I'm currently taking all your recommended cytokine supplements, and it hasn't helped. Thanks. So of these infections, Lyme, Bartonella, Babesia, and toxicity, the one that I tend to find gives most problems with abdominal pain and GI dysfunction is Bartonella. Sometimes Lyme can, but also in people that have a lot of GI dysfunction, I'm always wondering about too many yeast sitting in the intestines too, okay? And I talked about that briefly earlier today. You might want to review my yeast articles to see if that's something for you to consider, okay? Yeah, that's where I would do. To tell you the best thing to do, Alexander, there's a lot going on here. I would need to ask you a lot of questions, but I would just point you in the direction of that, okay? All right. Good luck to you. Hello, James. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Thank you for everything you do. You're welcome. I have been in remission of Lyme for about 9 months. Oh, we already answered this one earlier. Hello, Mark. Hi, Doc. Thank you for these. I have bowl toxicity, mast cell activation syndrome. At first, I gained 30 pounds. Now I have lost 40 pounds. Why would this happen? Mast cell is extreme. Your thoughts? Thank you again. Boy. I would need to know more, but just some comments. So first of all, if the mold toxicity is still bad, your body's going to, your immune system is going to be overproducing cytokines. Cytokines, actually, that's the wrong comment. The cytokines that get overproduced can lead to weight gain, not weight loss. So, Mark, unfortunately, well, the histamines that get released from mast cell may interrupt digestion, may interrupt food satiety, your ability to sense whether you're getting full at all or not. I don't have a quick answer for you on this one, unfortunately. I appreciate the question. I don't know. I would need to ask a lot of questions that I'm not able to do here. Okay. All right. Good luck. Hello, Anna. Let's see. Hello, Dr. Marty. Thank you very much for your seminars, along with recorded version and summary, Anna. Well, thank you. I always appreciate being that people would recognize the work that we're doing here. I'm doing here, so I appreciate that. Thank you. I put a lot into this, and it's good to get that kind of feedback. Thank you. Hello, Heather. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I developed nonspecific white matter brain lesions in 2016 after a severe Lyme relapse. I haven't been able to get well since. My neurologist said that they do not look like MS lesions. Do you do anything different as far as treatment when someone has brain lesions for Lyme? My doctor is really pushing me to do IV antibiotics. I think one of the reasons I'm not getting well is my stress level. Is there a way to reset the nervous system? I feel so overstimulated. So a couple thoughts. If you've done oral antibiotics and you're not getting better and you have brain lesions, then there's a fair reason to consider doing IV antibiotics. It's just they have a better chance of getting into the brain. Okay. And yes, these lesions, for what you've described here, could be due to Lyme. The other things that you, in terms of your immune, being stressed out and overstimulated, that can hurt your ability to get well, unfortunately. There are a number of programs that you can do to kind of decrease the effect of that stress. One is a program by Annie Hopper called DNRS, Dynamic Neural Retraining System. It helps kind of balance out the over-adrenaline nature of your nervous system. There's another method called the Gupta method. There's something called Brain Tap. There's a number of programs that are designed to help kind of quiet an over-agitated, overreactive, over-sympathetic, over-adrenaline type of a nervous system. Okay, all right. So those are some things to look at for that. The other thing, given the kind of brain trauma that you have, an injury, you might want to look at doing a peptide, which is called cerebropep. I'm sorry, it's something called cerebrolysin, which is included in the oral peptide supplement called cerebropep by Integrative Therapeutics. And I would do that one. I think I would do 1 pill or 2 pills 1 time a day. Let me double check on that here. I'm going to do a quick screen share here. I'm having a brain fart moment here. All right, so take a look again at the Integrative Peptides page. Cerebrolysin, which is found in the cerebropep. Actually, I would dose this at 1 pill a day. I'm sorry, 1 pill a day on this. And after a month or so, if it's not helping, you might go up to 2 pills 1 time a day. Okay, all right. But cerebropep is composed of cerebrolysin. And cerebrolysin can help brain trauma and brain and central nervous system injury. Okay, all right. All right, Heather. Good luck to you. Hello, Kim. How long can you stay on nystatin for? My daughter was on 1 million units 2 times a day. Her symptoms are coming back. Is it possible to stay on nystatin for longer than 2 months? Should be taking probiotics while on the nystatin. So nystatin is a gentle yeast killer. Often by itself, it's not going to be enough to get rid of yeast. I usually couple it either with an herbal compound called Capri Plus, and that's 2 pills twice a day along with nystatin, or I like to combine it with diflucan as a 200 milligram pill 1 time a day. Nystatin is not toxic to your body. In fact, it stays in the intestines. It does not get absorbed into your bloodstream, and therefore is not harmful to your kidneys or to your liver. All right. So it would be okay to stay on it long term. I have people on it for a year, 2 years, even longer sometimes, as a means of helping to control yeast, to keep yeast from popping up. Okay. In other words, I use it to kind of police the environment to swat yeast down if they start coming up. There's no problem taking that long term. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Kim. And good luck to your daughter, actually. Hello, Sherry. Let's see, I've tested IgG positive for 4 strains of Bartonella. My symptoms are severe burning behind my head and coming down to my hands. Can you tell me what the burning is from and how to stop it? So burning is a symptom of nerve injury or neuropathy, okay? Another symptom could be numbness, but one way that nerves will respond when they've been injured is to give you that burning sensation. One of the things that can help is to try to repair the injury, all right? So part of that is kill your germs that are injuring the nerves, okay? Number 2, you can repair the nerve covering, and that is to actually use the same things I recommended earlier to fix your energy factories called mitochondria. Those same steps repair your nerve injury as well too. And that is to use the ATP 360, 3 pills 1 time a day to do phospholipid repair the covering of the nerve. Nerves that are injured also have injured mitochondria, so it will work to repair the mitochondrial membrane as well too, okay? The other thing I would do is that I recommend to my patients when something like this happens is to do liposomal glutathione. Glutathione gets on the inside of nerves and inside of mitochondria and repair injury from the inside. I would do at least a teaspoonful of the Tri-Fortify product by Research Nutritionals 1 time a day. Okay. Another thing that I'm just starting to work with in my treatments too, in situations like this, is to do nerve repair by adding in the BPC 157 that I mentioned earlier tonight, the peptide, and that's 1 pill twice a day. It's a little bit early for me to tell you whether it gives the dramatic improvements that I know that ATP 360 and the liposomal glutathione can, but it probably can help. Okay. All right. Good luck to you, Sherry. Hello, Lynn. Do you think BPC 157 or TB4 Frag might help scleritis of unknown origin? You know, in theory, probably the BPC 157 might have a better chance of doing it because, again, it fixes injured tissues, okay? Maybe. I haven't seen any studies on either one of those, though, okay? Hello, Amy. We did testing with IGeneX when my 13-year-old son developed neurologic symptoms. Babesia decani, IFA IgG, and Bartonella immunoblot IgG came back positive. The B-Burgdorferi IFA was positive, and the Lyme immunoblot was positive bands 41, 58, and indeterminate on 31. Lyme was negative due to the indeterminate. Do you ever see IgG rather than IgM come up positive in a new infection? The blood draw was 2 weeks after he started neurologic symptoms. I'm trying to figure out if this is a new infection or is truly chronic. So IgM antibodies are what your body first develops when you get an acute infection. And in theory, if you get reinfected again, they might come back. Usually in most infections, IgMs will go away by 6 weeks to 3 months and they get replaced by IgG. And once you develop IgG, they will remain there. They're the member of the immune system, okay? Now, there are 2 exceptions to this, Bartonella and Lyme. We know from data that was used to recruit people into the NIH studies that were done 15 years ago. 15 years ago, NIH did 3 different studies trying to figure out, do long-term antibiotics help people with Lyme, all right? There were various flaws with their studies, and in the end they said no, but we can reinterpret their data and say, yeah, it does look like they work. But to get into the studies, you had to have failed Lyme treatment, have a lot of symptoms, and been sick for a while. And then they retested everyone to see what their Western blots were. And about 50% of those people that were trying to enroll in these studies were discovered to have positive IgMs. Right? These are people that had had it for a long time already, and they were still making IgMs. So we know that people with chronic Lyme can make IgMs, even if they've had it for years, and we don't know why it happens, okay? So even though with an acute case you might expect IgMs to show up, having IgMs doesn't mean you got it acutely. It could be still a sign of chronic infection, unfortunately. There is some newer data coming out of IGeneX in their immunoblot test, where they are seeing people with chronic Bartonella actually test positive with IgM as well, too, for Bartonella. And again, we don't know why. So this model that we have in medicine where you always convert from IgMs to IgGs isn't accurate when it comes to Lyme and may not be accurate when it comes to Bartonella as well, too, okay? Let's see if I answered your question. Let me look at this again here. Oh, one other question too. So keep in mind that Lyme, the test you had done is indeterminate. They are seeing some reactions. You're having some immune activity against the Lyme proteins, okay? But not enough to say it's positive. Lyme sometimes releases chemicals that suppress the immune system, so it has a hard time having a strong reaction, all right? So getting an indeterminate is not necessarily negative. It's just not positive. It's in between. This is one of those situations where if I knew more about your symptoms, if there is enough symptoms here still suggesting Lyme, I might cover for it anyhow in how I design my treatment because your test isn't necessarily negative. It's not necessarily positive either, okay? Sometimes as you treat longer with antibiotics, the test will become positive as you get rid of immune suppression. The immune system can have a stronger reaction. So sometimes people will convert to positive tests as well too, okay? All right. Good luck, Amy. Good luck to your son. Hello, Dave. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. I am taking cryptolepis. I think I answered this. I did answer this already. All right, I'll get rid of that. Looks like we got a number of people wrote these in two different places. Let me get rid of. There's another question we already answered earlier. That one I answered earlier. Let's see here. This one I haven't answered. Hi, Sherry. What can someone with severe insomnia do to help with sleep? I'm currently taking CBD, Lunesta, and Lamictal, and I still have trouble sleeping. Do you have suggestions to help with severe insomnia? Thank you. Well, that's a tough one, Sherry. It's a matter of trying to layer different medicines together like you are that work from different approaches. Okay, so Lunesta is a good medicine at getting you out, but it won't keep you out. Lamictal is probably a better medicine at getting you out. If you're using these and you're still having trouble, you may even want to add another medicine. So I don't know if you've used trazodone before. That is an antidepressant medicine that can sometimes give people sleepiness. If you haven't done it, that might be the next thing that I would consider adding to this regimen. The other thing in people that are really having severe sleep to consider is sleep apnea, meaning that the back of your throat closes off periodically, and that would take a sleep study to figure that one out too. Okay, so sometimes I'll look into that as well. Okay, all right. Good luck to you, Sherry. All right, so that's it for me tonight, everyone. I've had a good time being with you here. I got a dinner with a friend of mine, a good friend of mine tonight. I haven't seen him in a bit. So I'm going to take my two dogs up to his home, and they're going to mingle with his dogs and get to have dinner with he and his wife later. So I need to get going. But when I get back from there later tonight, I get to have the fun job of editing up the video for tonight's webinar to clean out the beginning part of it. And then I will be writing a summary to go out with that. So keep an eye out on that for tomorrow morning. Somewhere between 9 and 9:30, you'll get an email from me saying that the recording is ready to watch, and it will have the link for you to click and watch it. Okay. Again, and also in tomorrow morning's email, you will have links to sign up for the series of webinars that begin in June. Okay. So anyhow, I enjoyed being with you here tonight. I hope everyone has a good week where I'm going to be gone next week. Well, I'm actually working. I'm going to be writing, trying to get my final draft of my book done to get it off to my editor. And again, the book I'm writing is to try to compile a lot of my infection treatment plans into one book so that you can carry that around instead of having to read it online. But I've been working to try to get that done. And I'm hoping with a concentrated week of not seeing patients next week, I can finally get the final draft of that cleaned up and get it off to my editor. So that's what I get to do next week. But I'll be seeing you all the week after that. All right. So goodbye, everyone. Have a good Memorial Day in a week, and look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks then.